Hey everyone, welcome to Be the Change. My name is Lily Mott, and today I'm going to be talking about how change comes when you do what you need to do. My guest this week is India Ysabel, and she is an intersectional feminist and content creator who really cares about the work she's doing as an activist. I want to dive right into this conversation, so without further ado, let's get started with this episode featuring India Ysabel.
Hello, I'm India Ysabel, and I am an intersectional feminist and anti-racist activist, content creator, person that kind of just, I don't know, does things, cares about things. I never quite really know how to label myself necessarily in that remit. But then I'm also a creative and a sociology student and person just trying to navigate this absolutely just, I don't know, overwhelming world. So yes, that is me.
That is a great start, and I'm super interested in learning more about the work that you're doing. So, I would love to start at the beginning and have you tell me some about how you got started with this work. What inspired you to learn more about these issues and get so involved?
So I grew up in Bath, which is a small city in England. It's majority white population, and I am mixed race black. Um, and so just kind of naturally, I always felt this need to be outspoken and educate people on the subjects that I knew about. I think kind of being a challenger, being an educator has always just come so naturally to me. And it's not something that I would ever say that I chose to do. It just felt like what I needed to do. And in some cases, just, yeah, like had to do. Kind of started to become a bit more involved in stuff during secondary school in kind of just local organizing with youth and stuff, and working just with the local council on things. And um then it kind of, I don't know, I suppose really when everything kicked off in a big way for me, when I started like doing like change making or whatever you want to call it properly, was in the summer of 2020, when you kind of saw this resurgence of Black Lives Matter. And you know, I just felt this need to talk about it and talk about my experiences, talk about what I knew, because most of my friends were white. Most of the people that I followed and followed me were white, and I was like, I don't know who else that they know is going to do anything and say anything that is going to be impactful and helpful. So I just started speaking about it, but it kind of it and I didn't necessarily expect anyone to listen, but it kind of became that a lot of people turned to me as sort of like, oh, okay, India's saying something, we'll listen to India, let's look at what India's doing. And then things kind of just grew from there, and I started to branch out. I've always been very interested in feminism and, you know, intersectional feminism, although, you know, if your feminism isn't intersectional, it's not really feminism, but you know, but I kind of feel this need to specify it, I think. And I co-founded the Speak Up space with one of my best friends, Phoebes, and it's a listening and signposting space for survivors of sexual violence, harassment, anything that correlates. And just, I don't know, from there I kind of like grew from strength to strength. I was able to work with UN Women UK on their pilot scheme for safe spaces now. So basically what we did was we took a team of volunteers to a festival, and they were there to kind of be, we called them our guardian angels. They were there to just be on hand to make people feel safer. particularly women and marginalized genders as well, to kind of be able to be active bystanders, to have these people that they can come to, that they can trust, that are, trained in how to deal with particular scenarios regarding gendered violence. And that's something that I'm so, so proud of having been involved in. And I've also worked with a charity on, helping deal with internal racism within the climate space. And yeah, all sorts really. I'm also in a period at the moment where I have put activism on the back burner a little bit. I'm like taking this time to just look after myself. I think for the past 2 years it's just sort of been go, go, go. I feel the need to look out for other people. I feel the need to work for other people. And I think I'll always probably feel like that. I think I do really live my life and do the things that I do for other people. But I think I'm just taking some time to try and find out what I can do for me as well. And in a way, I think that's like one of the best things that you can do in the climate that we live in, because I think enjoying yourself and being happy is one of the biggest resistances against racism, against capitalism, because it's not what those things are built on. They're not built on the joy of people like me. So I don't know. I mean, I think people underestimate the power of joy and doing things for yourself as well, but still kind of doing things here and there within activist spaces, but hoping to kind of like get back onto it fully in, perhaps a few months or so, when I can when I feel as though I'm at a place again where I have enough energy to give to others in the way that I like to. So that's where I'm at now.
I think those are great points, and I'm so glad that you included that part at the end, because it's so true that you have to help yourself before you can help others. And I'm glad that you're taking the time for yourself. And so I would love to know as well, I'd love to know more about Speak Up Space. You mentioned a little bit about the path to get started with the organization, but can you tell me more about that story and what you're working on through Speak Up Space?
So we realized that there was this gap in between, experiencing sexual violence or harassment, or other things within that remit, and then also just getting the help for it, because experiencing something like that it's not something you can even begin to explain really in terms of how you feel, and it's not something that other people that haven't experienced it around you can understand unless it's happened to them. And it's sort of, I think the ideas that are promoted are like, okay, so it happens and you call the police, and that's just what you do, or you don't call the police and you just kind of deal with it and you just live with that. But we wanted to be able to just have a space where people can come to us and be like, hey, this thing has happened to me, and you know what, I feel like I don't need any professional help for it or anything, but I just want to tell someone about it, because I don't know that I'd feel comfortable telling my friends about it or my family about it. And so it was a safe space to, ask questions and talk about their experiences in as much detail or not much detail at all, just whatever they wanted, or to say, hey, this has happened to me, I do want help, but God knows what kind of help I actually need and what I can access, what's available for me. And so then we would be able to signpost them to that. And it's just, I think it was just about making life easier for survivors, really. That's what we wanted to do, because I don't, think when something as horrible as that happens to you, life can feel that it's at the hardest point that it's been at before, and you need someone else to just take the reins a little bit. But that's not to say that we're there to do everything for the survivor. This is also about putting control back in the survivor's hands. It's about what they want, hence why it's so open in terms of kind of what we're offering. We're not a crisis line, and we're not, professional therapists. We're just there to be a helping hand for what people want and what they need. And we also want to educate, because we really think that, the thing that really lays the foundation, part of the foundation for things like this happening, is ignorance, is a lack of education, is a lack of understanding around things. And, people, particularly men, I don't think have an education on nuanced consent, what sexual violence is really about. It's not about sex, it's about a need for dominance. But then also you have all of these other things within sex that just kind of are not communicated about, even down to, sexual health. We have open communication about sexual health, which can feel so incredibly personal, but it's normal. Everyone has sexual health. And when we open gateways of communication and education, I really think that we actually can start moving forward and hopefully begin to prevent things from happening, rather than just dealing with them in the aftermath.
I love that. And I think the idea of making it easier for people to reach out and talk with someone is so important. You're encouraging people who have had these difficult experiences to take advantage of the resources that are within their means and that they feel comfortable with, which is just, it's so important. So I would also love to know, when you're talking about taking care of yourself and prioritizing your own time and well being, can you tell me more about how you do that for yourself? Do you have any forms of self-care that you really enjoy, or do you have any tips for people who may be trying to let themselves rest a little more?
Well, I think I've also been, trying to actually figure out what I enjoy and what I find helpful. And yeah, because I think for a long time I honestly wasn't sure on what really it was that brought me joy. But I've kind of realized, and the thing that I kept circling back to was film. I love films so much. Um, and so I'm kind of at this point now where I'm, probably going to the cinema every week, every other week, um, because I just love to kind of have some time where I can just like invest my mind into something else, something that is just, even if it's set in our world, it's still not my world. I can, put my mind into something else. And I found that really helpful. And I've always wanted to make films as well. So started writing and, planning and all of that stuff. So it's kind of just been able to like put my energy into something that I'm passionate about and that I enjoy, and not because I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to make money out of this thing just because I like it. And I think that's something that's really important for people, is you don't need to make money off of your passions. And I understand that we're in this time where it's like, you have we all have jobs that like take up so much of our time, and it can almost seem like it's not worthwhile if it's not making us money, because the economy is just in a disastrous state. But I really want people to know that you don't have to make money off the things that you enjoy. You can just do them because you enjoy them. And I think if anything, it's more important to do them because you enjoy them, because I mean, half the time when money gets involved, most people stop enjoying that thing. Just do it because you like it. Do it because you have a spare half an hour, and you want to get involved in something. But also just, I don't know, it's little things like going for walks by myself, or you know listening to music and podcasts and things, and writing about how my day was. And yeah, I don't know, I think it's finding out what's good for you and what's helpful for you can be actually a weird process, I think, especially when yeah, you've spent a long time focusing on other people and what other people do. But I'm 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 getting there, I think I'm like, yeah, getting to a good place with it all. So yeah, but just that would be my big thing. Find your thing that you like, but don't feel the need to monetize it, even if it's something that is often monetized, like I don't know, art and crocheting clothes or something. Do it because you like it, and yeah.
I think that's great advice, and it's so important, especially in the age of the side hustle after the pandemic, where everyone's trying to make a little more money. I think it's so important to not do something just because it makes money, because as soon as you start doing that, it puts more pressure and more stress on it, and then it's not as fun. So I think that's great advice. I have one more question for you. Lots of young people want to create change and they want to make a difference, but they may not know how to get started. Do you have any advice for those people who may be listening?
So, advice for people that want to get into activism is something that I get asked it a lot, and I even after all of this time, I still don't really have a proper answer. But what I will say is that if you are really passionate about something and you really care about something and you're in it for all of the right reasons, you will be able to find a way. You can't be thinking about how am I going to do this on a large scale? How am I, immediately going to get this law change in? How am I going to make my way into parliament and, talk to all of the politicians, or, how am I going to stop this thing from happening? It's okay to start small. Not all change is, happening on a huge scale. Change is happening within our personal relationships, change is happening within our schools. The first ever, I feel like, real piece of change making I did was within school, and it, only affected people that went to my school, but it's now a thing that has changed in that school and is going to affect all of the next generations that go to that school. And so even at the time, to me, I was like, this is very small. Actually, no, it's actually affecting a lot of different people. It's about making change in your office, your workplace. But honestly, just do it for the right reasons. Talk to your friends about things. Join a small organization, and don't ever feel like you need to start your own original new thing. I think that almost feels like this pressure that you have to be like the newest, best, most exciting thing. But actually, there are so many organizations that want your help and need your help. And also, don't think like I have to be the best person at public speaking. I have to, I think also there is a lot of accessibility issues when it comes to protests and stuff. You don't have to be out there on the streets. If you can make a spreadsheet, you are wanted and you are needed. If you're really good at making phone calls, you have a great phone voice and you know exactly what you want to say on the phone, you're wanted and you're needed. If you, I don't know, like it's all of these small things as well that contribute into, making all of these activist change making and charity groups work. And there's so much that goes into organizing a protest and stuff before you've even got the people out on the streets. So I would say don't be intimidated, be passionate, and just find your own way, because there's no one size fits all journey into activism and change making, all of that stuff. It's all about the individual. So don't expect it to go one particular way, because it's probably one of the most uncertain things I've ever done in my life.
I really enjoyed this conversation with India, and I want to highlight a piece of advice that really stuck with me. India talked about doing what you need to do, and I think that phrase sums up so much of the advice that she shared throughout this episode. She talked about doing what you need to do because you feel passionate about an issue and want to make change. She talked about doing what you need to do for yourself and making sure that you are healthy, happy, and doing well. She also talked about doing what you need to do to support a movement, whether that be leading a protest, making spreadsheets, making phone calls, or really any other role. India's path to activism has been very organic, and her story is a great example of how change comes when you do what you need to do. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and you can find India on Instagram at India Ysabel to get connected with her. If you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me by email at lily@bethechangepodcast.org or on Instagram at bethechangepodcast. Tune in for my next episode, but until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys.